Hello and welcome to the Arsenal Bite Size Podcast. I'm your host Clayton at Clates AFC on X. Happy New Year! Great start to 2025. I hope you all had a wonderful start to the new year. Your celebrations. I hope the Christmas period was great. But for the Arsenal, yeah, very good start. Technically, it wasn't a very good start when we were 1-0 down, and I think prior to the game there were lots of rumours about a bug doing the rounds, right? Found out that that's why Havertz missed out in the squad entirely. Arteta kind of hinted that there were some players that actually were playing that were ill as well and caught by the bug. So fingers crossed we've not been too heavily impacted by that. But yeah, I think that this was a great result, to be honest. I think there's areas in the game that we'll definitely look at and think we can improve on. And like there's definitely areas that I know the coaches will be looking at to improve on. I think Arteta looked fuming in periods in this game, especially like when we actually got the goals. He didn't look entirely happy. But yeah, I actually started the new year with an injury. So I had a bit of an accident on New Year's Eve. Not drunk, not partying. It's a very underwhelming story that I won't bore you with the details with. But unfortunately, I'm injured. Not going to be able to move, I think, for a week or two. So I thought, let me go and do a spontaneous solo. It's been a while since I've done one of these. And in terms of content schedule, got a Brighton fan coming on to preview our game tomorrow, and was going to do the review of Brighton and Brentford together on Sunday. But instead I thought, let me just do a solo, spend 5, 10, 15 minutes talking through some thoughts from the Brentford game. Might actually stay on brand as the Arsenal bite-sized podcast and keep it bite-sized. So yeah, I thought I'd jump on, do a spontaneous solo, talk through some thoughts from the game. And then, yeah, like I said, back tomorrow to do the preview for the Brighton game with a Brighton fan. The feedback was really good from the preview with Tom, the Brentford fan. So try and make that a more regular thing. And then, yeah, on Sunday, got Bobby coming on to review the Brighton game with me. So if that all sounds like a bit of you content-wise, then subscribe to the channel so you don't miss when we go live, like spontaneous ones like this. Usual content plans are basically a weekly preview and a weekly review. I think in in weeks where there's midweek games like Carabao Cup, FA Cup soon to be happening, Champions League, we'll try to combine the reviews and the previews to try keep minimum 2 bits of content a week. But if days like this where it allows and I can go spontaneous and do a bit of extra content, then we'll try and make it happen. But yeah, going to the actual game, it's an interesting one going into the game. Like, I think prior to the preview pod with Tom, I was kind of in a headspace where I thought it would be tough despite knowing about Brentford's injury list and stuff. And I don't know, I feel like they're a team that we spoke a bit about their identity shift on the preview pod, where historically I always looked at them as quite a tough team, but this year they do feel like they gave you chances. So going into the game, I felt weird. But then, sorry, not going into the game, prior to the preview, I felt quite weird. I thought it would be a close 2-1. Wouldn't be surprised if we drop points. But then after speaking to Tom, I felt really confident, to be honest. It was great to get his insight, but hearing more about how Frank supposedly treats these games like a bit of a free hit and goes for it, and we may not necessarily be up against a consistent low block. I think they defended in a low block in periods, part driven by how territorially dominant we are. But yeah, there was space for us in periods, right? And I don't know, like the injury list clearly is an influence, and I think we did play them at the right time, but it feels like we haven't really had those things fall our way this season, so it was quite refreshing. One thing I want to start on, I really, really, really liked the lineup prior to the game starting. I've been not critical of Arteta, but I think an area he can definitely improve on is trusting his squad and actually making those changes. And I thought this was really, really brave. Havertz was obviously out of the squad enforced because of the illness and the bugs doing the rounds. But I think the way he's managed, I'll just go through the team. So Raya obviously speaks for himself in there. Timber, Saliba, Gabriel, fine. But Calafiori coming in, I think Arteta has managed Lewis Skelly so well. Like, did he start the Palace game? I can't remember if he started that one. I feel like he did. Um, yeah, Lewis Skelly did start the Palace game. I think starting him in that and then rewarding him after his good performance by starting him against Ipswich at home and then bringing easing Calafiori back in through substitutions and giving Calafiori the start in this one. I think that's so smart in how he's managed that. So I really like that. I'll go through and talk through individual performances, just kind of talking through my thoughts on the lineup. The midfield, I thought it was again smart. Like Havertz being out affected two positions because then it guaranteed Jesus will be up top, but then it opened up some areas for competition in the midfield, right? The fact that he rested Rice, and I think he's managing him. He's obviously been working through his broken toe, and fitness-wise, he didn't look himself at the start of the season as well. So I think it was really smart and brave to go with that midfield three, and the obvious one of Ethan Nwaneri as well. I think that's so brave to go and do that. When we've lost Bukayo Saka, I said I didn't think we'd find one conclusive solution. I thought we all saw Martinelli come on against Palace when Saka went off, but I wasn't convinced that would 100% be the case every single game when Martinelli was on the right. For this game, I actually predicted Jesus on the right with Havertz up top, Martinelli on the left. But I like that even though Havertz was out, he didn't just go Martinelli on the right, Trossard on the left. He went with Nwaneri, and it wasn't enforced with the illness and the bug. Arteta said in his press conference, like, he thought he was the best player for that position for this game. And I rate that. I think it's brave to do that. And it was interesting. Arteta actually spoke a little bit about the kind of narrative side of things as well. He said there's also the story where this is where he made his Premier League debut 2 years ago. So there was that kind of nice story linked to it. And it was interesting to see that side of his management thinking. I think we always think, like, what are the optimal solutions for every single game state and stuff? And it's interesting that he's kind of hinted at a bit of vibes there, right? So yeah, I thought that was nice. Yeah, player by player, let's go through it. I just wanted to say I loved the team when it first came out. I thought I was excited by it. The left hand unit looked on paper something that would work. I was excited by Nwaneri on the right. I was a bit concerned about Havertz not being in there, but then when it came out that he obviously has his bug, that it is what it is, right? I was excited by Partey at the base. Yeah, I think regular listeners will know I've got my thoughts on how critical I think he is at the base of our midfield. Yeah, the fact that we're able to go and bench £100 million midfielder in Declan Rice and kind of ease him in over this period. I think it's really good squad rotation from Arteta. I'll just shout out Delia in the chat. Happy New Year, Clayton. Thank you, Delia. Happy New Year to you too, and to your partner and your family. Hope it's a very good one for you and the Arsenal. And Happy New Year to anyone that's tuned in live and watching. If you're in the new year, new me spirit and you're feeling positive, please drop the stream a like. It always goes a long way, especially doing these solo ones where, yeah, the dynamics are very different when doing these solo ones. But yeah, player by player, Raya, I thought he was having a stinker. Yeah, it wasn't just the obvious one where, was it Lewis Potter that took the shot? And he obviously, it kind of went through his hands, and then fair play, he did amazing to kind of get back and clear it off the line. But I thought his distribution was poor prior to that as well. I thought there are a couple of times he does this thing where he puts his studs on the ball, right? And like that's normal. That's so normal. That happens with all keepers. But with him, it almost looks a little bit uncomfortable. He looks really like agitated when he does it. He like puts his studs on the ball and he's consistently moving it. It kind of, I don't know, it gives me anxiety. And it's not anxiety on like, oh my God, he's going to lose the ball. He's going to get pressurized. It just, he doesn't look in control when he does it. And it might be an aesthetics thing that I'm being hypercritical on, but he did that. And there was one time where he kind of dragged it a centimetre or two with his studs and then kicked it, but it looked like he was close to getting closed down. Like I said, I thought his distribution wasn't very good yesterday. I wonder if I can find the stats. It's going to be, yeah, so accurate passes, 15 out of 28, 54% was his pass completion, and his accurate long balls, 3 out of 15, 20%. So, yeah, I was expecting to see those stats because on the eye, it felt poor. Then he obviously had that mistake, which he recovered from. But I'll give him credit. There was one moment he did really well. I think it may have been Lewis Potter again, actually. He was on the left. Brentford took a goal kick. went in behind Timber's side. Cross came in, and it looked like it was either going to go to Mbeumo or Calafiori may have cleared it. But either way, Raya came out, caught it really well, and then started the attack going out to Martinelli. But yeah, not his greatest game, that one, Ryan. I don't know, on the goal, like, I don't know where my head is at on some of these goals, but let me just find the stat that I saw in one of the group chats that I'm in. So our last 4 goals conceded in the Premier League were Mbeumo's, Sarr's, Jimenez, and Emerson's free kick. And in that order, the XG on those goals 0.06, 0.04, 0.06, and the free kick was 0.09. To add to that, there's Neto's one, which according to this tweet or message, sorry, was 0.02. There was Christie's in the Bournemouth game, 0.10, Archer, 0.06, and then Justin got his 2 goals from 0.08 combined. On that same message, it says there's been 9 out of 17 goals with less than 0.1 expected goals. And I don't know, it starts to get to a point where I'm not definitively there on this opinion. It's just something that I think is maybe one to keep an eye on. But like, can he be doing better? Like, I look at that goal from Mbeumo and fair play. Like, I think if it's an Arsenal player, I'd be the first to say, what a finish, like to create the yard, this and that. But it wasn't an Arsenal player, right? It's an opposition player. So I'm in the headspace of trying to think, what can we do better to nullify that? I don't think Calafiori was as bad on that goal, personally. I think he more or less had Mbeumo within a yard. And the ball went through his legs, right? I think, sure, like ideal scenario, you completely close that contact so he doesn't get the shot on goal at all. But I think that's very, very critical, I guess. Like, yeah, I don't know. He is someone that seems a little bit nonchalant in the way he gets back into his off-the-ball defensive position. But on that actual goal, I didn't have too much of a problem with it, to be honest. But I do look at the goalkeeper and I think, fair enough, he's obviously anticipating that it's going to go far post. But yeah, something that I've just got there as a seed in my head. Like, can he be doing better on these? Like, we're such a territorially dominant team that we restrict the opposition to pot shots and long range shots and shots from tough angles. If we're going to do that, we need the goalkeeper to be stopping them, really. And it's interesting. I heard on so I did a podcast with James from Planet FPL this morning, and he's basically said our season-long goals conceded versus expected goals conceded is more or less thereabouts. So maybe there are other instances that have escaped my mind where they haven't escaped my mind. He's done amazing, hasn't he, in games like Villa and stuff. And there's another game that has escaped my mind, but I remember an incident where he completely saved one and pulled one out of his arse. I don't know how he saved it. So, like I said, I'm not definitively there on it, but if I am looking from an angle of room for improvement, I feel like there maybe is one there. So yeah, not his best game, but recovered fine. Timber, Saliba, Gabriel, feel like I just need to group them, all very good. Yeah, to be honest, no, I'm not actually going to go player by player on this because I feel like not everyone needs a shout out on this one. Partey definitely is someone that does. He was absolutely fantastic, I thought. I've said this for a while. I just think, sounds bonkers, the signing of Declan Rice has caused a midfield headache. It has. And I know myself and no one else was saying this when we were going on that monster run in the start of 2024 onwards, but I don't think we use Declan Rice in the optimal way. I think he's someone that in the period of 2008 to 2014, when everyone was playing with a double pivot of a box-to-box midfielder and a deep-line playmaker, he suits that to a T. In the Ramsey-Arteta double pivot, he is the Aaron Ramsey, but we don't play that way. And the way we use him as a left eight only works in certain game states. He's not someone that should be on the last line in the pockets receiving it on the half turn. He's someone that should be taking the ball from deep and driving forward. He is capable of arriving and being the last action player. I just don't think it gets the best out of him. And I think Partey at the base is it just makes Arsenal click. Like the ball progression, even defensively, I thought he was very good in this game. I feel like there is a way to use Rice, Partey, Odegaard together but just tweaking the positioning a little bit so we get the best out of absolutely all of them. But yeah, Partey, great game from him. Marino came in, got his goal. Room for improvement from him. I think it's been a tough season for him because, yeah, he obviously came in, got injured, got clattered by Gabriel, so he's been eased in. But there were certain games when he started, and I remember being really encouraged because he made that Granit Xhaka run that we've missed for so long, which gets done because you've got a natural left-sided, left-footed player where the ball goes on the left-hand side. The left-sided eight, whether it's a left and only a left footer does this, in my opinion, where it looks so natural. The left-sided eight either goes out or he comes in and it opens up space in or out. And he did that in a few games he started in. And in this game, he looked rusty, in my opinion. He got his goal, and I'm happy for him, but there's a couple of times where I think he takes a little bit too long on the ball. And I must say, I don't think this is always the case. I only noticed it really in this game, but there are other games where I've said the ball came into him. I really liked how he opened his body out, got it out quicker. So maybe it was just a little bit of rustiness. But in this game, I thought the ball went into him and it almost felt like we slowed down a bit. And there were periods where we got into the middle and final thirds, and from sat on my sofa watching the television, it looked like it was screaming for him to move. I almost looked a little bit too often and thought he was a bit of a statue when we were in possession, and he needed to make that decoy run to create space elsewhere. That's the only way we're gonna work when we're facing these sort of defensive units that we're up against. But yeah, happy for him, got his goal. Odegaard was everywhere really, wasn't he? Yeah, great performance I thought from him. Can he do more in the final third when he gets there? We saw against Ipswich, he took that initiative, went on a little dribble, got himself a shot off. I think he did something like that in this game, to be fair, but didn't quite turn into a shot. He took one shot from outside the box that went ballooning over, didn't he? But yeah, Jesus, really good for the goal. That is proper centre forward play that I think people probably would not associate with Gabriel Jesus. On that goal, I know the goal looked awful and messy, but I thought it was a really good bit of play to start off that mess from Gabriel, where he just took initiative, drove with the ball. I think he then played it into Martinelli, and then that's where the game of pinball started. And I think sometimes that's what you need, right? I've said this so much, we lack ball carrying ability. So when I see the likes of Gabriel taking the initiative to do that, Calafiori, Timber against Ipswich, Odegaard against Ipswich, it gets you off your seat. I think you're not going to always score a perfectly curated goal. And if you look at the 3 goals in this game, they weren't. One was a rebound, one was ricocheting in a set piece, and the other was a second ball that fell to Martinelli that he took amazingly well. But yeah, Jesus, happy for him. He's doing very well. We found him at a time where we need him. Martinelli as well. Loved his celebration. Absolutely loved his celebration. He's someone that, I mean, yeah, again, if you take the emotion out of it, there's lots of constructive criticism there, isn't there? But football is a game of emotion, and he clearly feels like he belongs here. Long term, I don't think he should be a starting level player for us, but I don't want to get rid entirely. And when someone loves being here as much as that, but also works as hard as he does, I've always got time for people like that. So, yeah, really happy for him. Great finish. And yeah, him and Jesus seem to link up really nicely on the left. And then Nwaneri, just fantastic, isn't he? Unbelievable. I think what he gave us on that right-hand side was the obvious, where he can kind of come inside and create more space on the outside for someone else. And I thought the pod of him, Timber, and Odegaard, all worked really nicely in tangent. But there were a couple of times where he looked like he was attracting a double up, a triple up, and like to have that level of presence at his age is absolutely incredible. And there was one time where he didn't just come inside; he kind of stood the man up, did a step over, went out on his right to get the ball in. And yeah, I really, really like that Arteta opted for him there. When Saka went off injured and in that post-match, I can't remember if it was the post-match against Palace or the pre-match against Ipswich, Arteta spoke about Nwaneri there, and I was quite excited to see it because his profile feels like it suits. And again, I've said this, I don't think we're going to see the same thing at right wing every game. I think there'll be some games we see Martinelli. I think we'll see Jesus there in some games. We've seen Nwaneri. I think we'll see it again. Really happy with this. I think the obvious one from this game is the fact that we kind of came back from going behind, right? Like, I actually thought we started the game quite well. Um, it didn't when I say we started well, I know there's a theme at the minute, myself included, where we feel like we have sterile possession. This didn't feel like it, in my opinion, prior to the goal. I thought we were getting in the right areas and it looked like something was going to give. Then Odegaard gives the ball away. They go and score from, a low probability effort, right? Already been discussed if there's room for improvement. But after the goal, I was concerned. I was really concerned. I didn't think we were looking great. And then we get the goal, and then I'm suddenly like, okay, great, level playing field. Let's take this again. And half time, like, fair play to Arteta, rocket up the arse, came out with a lot more intent. And do you know what? As much as this was a great win, and it's super impressive how we came back from a goal behind to go and get the win, I don't want to place too many stocks in it, just because I think the timing and the game state of when the goals happened helped us massively. And I think if the game went on longer in a drawing game state, I would have had concerns, I think. I would have had concerns whether we would have been able to open them up entirely from open play. But we didn't need to. We got the job done. And the one thing that I think influenced that was the intent straight away in the second half. I've said this so many times. This Arsenal team does not suit the Man City stranglehold approach. The profiles we have do not suit that. So I don't know why we sometimes try to or fall into that pattern of too many touches in the first phase, letting the opposition rest and moving them side to side. This Arsenal team, with the profiles we have, suits an element of that and an element of direct and fast and one touch, two touch, risky football. I think we're best suited when we apply the balance. And that's where I thought the second half was so much better. It was good. We were able to get 3-1 up and then made a few changes, got Lewis Skelly, Trossard, Rice, Jorginho on, took off Calafiori, Nwaneri, Marino, Odegaard, and then in the final minute, Zinchenko left wing with, who was up top? Trossard, I think. So yeah, all in all, great day at the office with areas for improvement in periods, I think. I'll leave it there, but just wanted to say, some of my thoughts from that game. Great start to the year. We're up to second, 6 points behind Liverpool, despite their game in hand. We've got Brighton on Saturday afternoon before Liverpool host Man United on Sunday. And psychologically, I always prefer to play first when we're in this scenario. If we can psychologically take that gap to 3 points, despite them then having 2 games in hand, I think that will make I think it will make a difference. I may be narrativing there, so we'll see. Just one thing I wanted to call out, actually, in terms of how well we managed that game once we went 3-1. A tweet from Mark R. Stats. When Brentford defended while drawing or winning, they allowed 12 shots, which was about 1.7 expected goals. And we conceded just a single shot, which was worth 0.1 expected goals in a positive winning game state. So, yeah, managed it super well. Very professional performance. I just don't want to get carried away, because I think there will be games and periods in games this season where we look a little bit unstuck unless we add things in the transfer market. So I think it's going to be a little bit of a grind. But yeah, great start to the year. Flipping now. You look at the run coming up and it's non-stop. Brighton away. Then we've got the 2 cup games, Newcastle, Man United, then the North London derby, then Villa, then Champions League in there, then Wolves, then Champions League again. It's non-stop pretty much until the second leg of the Carabao Cup game up in Newcastle, which is on the 5th of Feb. So it's going to be a period where I don't think will be entirely free-flowing. I think there will have to be squad rotation in there. I think Arteta so far has done that very well since Saka's got injured, and in this festive period. This is just a results period, I think. As much as I'm someone that loves the aesthetics of it, of how we can play and do better sometimes, I think at the minute it's just output, output, output. And I think in this game against Brentford, we were clinical, and that's not always sometimes a word I can use with this Arsenal team. So very professional to come back from behind, get the job done. On to Brighton. Like I said at the start, I've got a Brighton fan coming on to preview that game with me tomorrow. So, yeah, if you have enjoyed this little solo, appreciate you sharing some love. If you could just drop the stream a like. If you're listening on audio, give it a 5-star review. And if you're new to the channel and like the kind of vibe from here, as well as the weekly content that we do with guests, please consider subscribing to the channel on our road to 400 subs. Back with you tomorrow, and then we'll have a Brighton review pod on Sunday. Thank you very much. I'll just do a couple shout outs before I get out of here. Delia, thank you for joining live. Yes, it was quite fitting that Jesus looks reborn during the Christmas holiday, and it is a busy season. And Nick Fadley, good to see you again in here, mate. Happy New Year. Yeah, let's hope it's a good one and a big one for the Arsenal. Cheers, everyone. Back with you tomorrow. Up the Arsenal.